All right. So, here we go, week 25, part 2, and we're learning about the law of cosines. So, law of cosines looks like this, where we have some general triangle with angles and sides, okay? And in general, the law of sines that we learned about previously is easier to use, but law of cosines helps in certain situations, for example. So, let us call this, suppose we said this is angle A, and angle B, and angle C. Therefore, this would be side A, and side B, and side C. Notice how I'm being careful about my capital letters at the angles, lowercase letters at the sides. It'll totally mess you up if you don't. And if I were to try to plug in to the law of sines, I can, and I'll say sine of A over A equals, let's say, sine of B over side B, and that's all good. This is correct, but if I went to solve, you see how I have two variables, so I'm not going to be able to solve it. Alright, so this is an example where if you were doing that, you'd say, you know what, law of sines isn't going to work for me, so I'm going to use the law of cosines. So, you have these sitting in front of you. We're gonna plug in. We need the right tool for the right job. So we could say a squared, we're using this one, a squared gives b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times cosine of a. And something that I use to help me sort of remember these is if this is your side, this is your angle. If this is your side, this is your angle. This is your side, this is your angle. And then the other variables are thrown in there. So when we substitute in here, we get 5 squared equals 8 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 8 times 12 times the cosine of A. So if there's a specific variable that you're looking for, make sure that it's either this variable or this variable, or else it's going to mess you up if it's in here, because it would be here and squared. Trouble. So let's see, what am I going to do? Square, subtract, subtract. Remember this is a common mistake. This is multiplying cosine A, so deal with that last. So we get negative 183 is negative 192 cosine A. Wait, what? Yeah. This is 25, this is 64, this is 144. So we're subtracting 64, subtracting 144, and we get this. This all multiplied is the negative 192. We're going to now divide both sides by negative 192, and it'll tell us that the cosine of A is 183 over 192 is 0.95. Look at all these decimal places I'm using. Whoa. And then, so to find the angle A, we would take the inverse cosine of both of these. And here's what your calculator is going to tell you. A equals 17.6. Okay, let's think about the unit circle again. So, unit circle, if the cosine is 0.95, it's like way out here. Remember, cosine is the x-coordinate. So there's two angles that correspond to that. There is, let's zoom in. There is, whoa, this angle, which is at 17.6 degrees, and there's also that one, which if we subtracted from 360, we would get this, 342.4 degrees. That angle is obviously too big for a triangle, right? Because the sum of all the angles has to equal 180 degrees. Okay, so we got A equals 17.6, and what else do we know? Alright, we have some other stuff to solve. So, we know the sides, and we know this angle now. And based on our diagram, 17.6 looks pretty good. We still need to figure out B and C. So, would you... Yep, this is no longer a passive experience. So you're going to set up, you're going to plug in to b squared equals blah, 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 blah. And this is your variable here. and you're going to plug into c squared equals blah, 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 and this is your variable here. So to do that, I'm going to be checking to make sure that you have these equations set up, and then try to solve, and I'm going to tell you what the answers are over here. So definitely do this. If you just have this written on your paper, you're going to get a 0 on these notes, unfortunately. So let's see, A equals, we got 5 and 8 and 12, so this was given to us, and 17.6 and 29.0, and I think we end up with a 133.4 degrees. Okay, so set up those equations, try to solve, hopefully you get these answers. You got it. Law of cosines. So let's take a look at another example on the next page. This example says, and I quote, solve triangle ABC. So this, to me, this sounds vague, but what they mean by solve the triangle is find all the angles and sides. So we need 6 pieces of information. Solve triangle ABC where angle A equals 46.5 degrees, B is 10.5, and little c is 18. So these are sides. This is an angle. Angle, and then we got sides. Angle. Okay, so our general triangle, set it up like this. What you call A, B, and C does not matter. So I'm going to go A, B, C. Therefore, this little, whoa, easy there. This little side would be B, this little side would be A, and this little side would be C. And what information do we know? We know that C is 18.0, and angle A is 46.5 degrees. That's cool. And B is 10.5. Okay. So we're going to be trying to figure out angle C and angle B and little side A. So I'm a real visual person, and when I got this, at this point, I'd be like, okay, this is definitely not drawn to scale. And I would kind of, you don't have to do this, but this is what I'm recommending. So I draw it more to scale, where I know that C is 18 and B is 10.5, and this angle is 46.5. So this way, if I get answers, I can kind of look at them to see if they make sense. Because, you know, I make mistakes. And so what we're expecting, you know, is that angle B is something less than 46, and angle C is something maybe a little more than 90 degrees. And that A is maybe in between 10 and 18. That's not a 1.8, that's an 18. So that's what we expect. How do we plug in? Right. So if we were looking for, let's say, A, we would want to use the equation with the A squared on the left-hand side, so that that is our variable. And our equation would look like this, that version of the law of cosines. So substituting in, A squared equals 10.5 squared, that's B, plus 18.0 squared, that's C, minus 2BC times cosine of A. A is in degrees, so make sure you're in degree mode. After doing some calculating, we'd get, I think, something like this, and we'd take the square root of both sides and round, and something like that. So, I got an answer. I wonder if that makes sense. And I could write it in here, and given my diagram, aha! Eureka, this is what we expected. The length of A was something between B and C, lo and behold 13.2. So I'm going to just pause right there, pat myself on the back, and assume that I'm correct. So what else do we need? Yes, we need to solve for angle B and angle C. So that guy and that guy. Alright, so I'll set this one up for you. In solving for angle B, we're going to use the equation with the b squared over there. So a squared plus c squared minus 2ac times the cosine of angle B. So when we set it up, we would get something like, what is that I have written? Who knows? So let's try 10.5 squared plus 18 squared minus 2 times 10.5 times 18 times the cosine of B. Oh, and what was B squared? B was 10.5. So this, what's going on here, Tourville? Alright. I had that written and it looks totally wrong. So, in setting this up, I would be doing this. B squared, so 10.5 squared. Sorry about that typo there. Who knows what I was doing? B squared equals A squared, so 13.2 squared plus 18 squared, that's C squared, and minus 2A C cosine of B. Okay, so this is how this would be set up. Again, disregard that. And to solve for angle B, we would do just like we did up here, where we multiply, we subtract these from both sides, and then we divide by that and take the inverse cosine as the last step. So I would like you to set up this one as well. C squared equals blah 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 blah. We're going to have cosine of angle C, and the answers we should end up with are, we should have a 13.2 for A, a 10.5 for B, 18.0 for C, 46.5 degrees for A, 35.3 degrees for B, and 98.2 degrees for C. So definitely set this up. If you just have this written, you're not going to get credit for the notes. Do your best to solve, and we will be practicing in class if you're not getting the correct answers. Good luck.